Hey everybody, we are back. This is our annual breakdown of San Diego Comic-Con, this time obviously for 2019, and it is also our first video prepping for 2020. This is something we've done, I don't know, I think 3 years now maybe. And it is a real pain at the end of Comic-Con to try to, formulate the ideas and put everything together. But I do find literally every April or May I rewatch these videos and it helps me remember kind of what's going on, and it just captures things at its freshest point. So this year, different than years past, it was kind of doing a daily, little vlog of what our observations were. So you can head back if you're interested in that and kind of see day by day of, what was going on preview night, Thursday, etc. But for Sunday night, we're going to forego just the summary of the day and go with this bigger overview like we've done in the past. So let's start out with this. I think one of the things that we found over the last few years, and I don't think that there's much disagreement about this from anybody for those that have attended the con for a while, is just the amount of easy to access, useful, decent swag has really become very limited. If we look back at years ago, pictures that I look at of kind of when we're putting together stuff, it's like half the bed would be things like t-shirts and lanyards and bags and all this different stuff. And now truly this year of just kind of the grabbing in hand stuff, it's basically these items here, which are mostly from Dark Horse, and really Dark Horse, Kodo, and Hasbro is about it, and meaning things that you could just walk up, grab, and move on. You didn't have to get your badge scanned, you didn't have to give your email address, you didn't have to subscribe to something, because I think what we see instead, what has happened with the floor is much more of the latter, is people want something in return. Is we can get, the Dark Phoenix print from Sienkiewicz, but we got to give them our email address. We can get the Famous Monsters lanyard, but we got to give them, let them scan our badge. And over and over again, they want something in return. And that's different. And there's nothing really to be done about it, but it is something that I don't know that there's been much talk about, but I just find that a lot of that movement, in addition to it just kind of being annoying that there aren't the t-shirts and things like that there were in the old days, or the good bags, the Dark Horse bags used to be kind of the throwaway bags, and now it feels like those are about the best bags on the floor. I mean, Stars had some pretty nice canvas bags, pretty small. We grabbed those as well. We don't have close to everything on the bed. We just have kind of representative samples. But the fact that now Dark Horse is kind of like the bag to grab. You don't have Lionsgate, you don't have Blood Factory, you don't have the Walking Dead type bags, you don't have those other more useful bags. Because they just kind of have changed. We got the Shutter bag, but we had to subscribe to the service. It was a 30-day subscription for free. We got the Creepshow poster, we got the bag, but then we'll have to unsubscribe if we don't like it. Now, we wanted to get Shutter anyway, so I'm guessing we'll just keep it, no big deal. But the fact that we had to jump through those hoops, put in our credit card info, all of that, that's something that's relatively new and changed the floor. And I think the thing that people don't really talk that much about, and there's not much to really be done, but just it really does clog up a lot of the aisleways. If you look at something like Square Enix this year, they had that Marvel Avengers lanyard. And in the old days, that would just be handed out. People would grab them quickly, move on to the next thing. Now it's a 10, 15 minute line to go in, put your stuff in the iPad, etc. So it does impact the floor when you combine that with so many of the signings going to a lottery system, so many of the big time exclusives going to a lottery system. It's just, you've got a lot of people that don't have anywhere to go, and so they're clogging up other things. And so it's really interesting in the mornings how much more quickly things get clogged up than the old days, because you did have people so broken up into different areas that are no longer necessary. And so, again, nothing really to do with it except know it. I think knowing these things helps to formulate plans a little bit more. I know it makes us look a little bit more at things like signing options. So, for example, Jeff Lemire, Michael Walsh doing their Black Hammer Justice League signing. Over at Dark Horse, that was a cool one to get. We won the lottery for Batwoman, so got the poster signed there. That was cool, but again, you had to win a lottery for that. A big thing, too, in the way of swag is it's seeming like more and more to a trend is you kind of have to pay to play, meaning that being a member helps get you this swag and kind of gives you the only swag that's decent in some cases. So, for example, with DC Universe, we're DC Universe members. We subscribed last year at Comic-Con. We've loved watching Doom Patrol and Titans and Swamp Thing and Young Justice and all that. But because we were members, We were able to get the 4 posters, which were basically the best things that DC was giving out, or Warner Brothers, if you ask me. But that was because we were members. It was easy to get. We just walked up, they scanned our badge, but it wasn't because it was something that we like fought out or, camped out for anything like that. The Jim Lee Batman print, this again is a DC Universe print. This was part of a brunch to get signed. We did not get into the brunch. We didn't make it in time, but a friend went, got that signed for us. But again, all of these items that are some of my favorite things from the con this year in terms of the freebies were things because we were members. Also on the other side, Hasbro Pulse. Because we are Pulse members, we got in when it was a free membership. It gave us the ability to enter into an online drawing or an online booking system, and we were able to get preview night tickets. So we were able to know that we were going to get our Hasbro items preview night without having to use any of our lottery allotments. None of the tokens had to go to that. And that way we were able to put those towards Funko and Tamashii, signings, other things. Whereas if we didn't have Hasbro Pulse, we would have put probably just about everything into Hasbro, because it's a big deal to me. And then that would have greatly changed how our convention went. Now also because we were Pulse members, we were able to try to fight our way out to get into the Hasbro Pulse party. I was not able to get in time. Carmel was. She won this giant Transformers press kit. She got the Red Ranger, Austin St. John's autograph. She had a nice, I wouldn't say it was a nice dinner, but she got food, entertainment. They had some reveals there. But all of that stuff up in that kind of left corner of the bed are all things because we are members of something. It got us these free things. So they're not truly free, obviously, but they're kind of free. So it really feels like you need that. Now, I know the Twilight Zone Offsite, we did not do that, but we heard like you got the bag if you signed up for CBS All Access. If we would have signed up for DC Universe, like we debated on me letting mine lapse and Carmel signing up her name for DC Universe, because there was the 4 variant covers for the DC Comics this year that they had. And those weren't for returning members. Those were just for new members. So, it's kind of interesting because when we look at this, basically everything from this point on, like half the bed, is basically things that because we were members or we won a lottery, those were items we got. So this is definitely something to be aware of. Now, in terms of offsites, the thing we're seeing there is there's more and more of a divide there as well. Of the good offsites are really good, very interactive, very entertaining, cool pieces of swag in some cases, but very amazing entertainment either way. So something like, what they did over at FX with American Horror Story, fantastic interactive haunt experience. There was no swag at the end of it, but there was a cool picture, kind of a little motion video, or a little video, I should say, that's kind of a promo for the new series coming out, American Horror Stories 84, but it has you in it, and it kind of shows your expression in the haunt experience. What we do in the shadows, a highlight to me of all offsites this year. Amazingly fun. I mean, it was like you were in the TV show interacting with those actors. You could just hang out in the lair and have these blood pop ice cream sickles, and got a little bit of swag, a lot of, there was a vampire doing all sorts of magic, really cool things there. The Boys, fantastic offsite, really, really fun, kind of an escape room scenario, all sorts of swag there. There was a speakeasy room that took you into a comic shop, I played a game of darts and won the Good Omens apple because I got a bullseye and all sorts of fun stuff. But because they are so interactive, huge lines, huge lines, and so really rough go, and you really do have to, again, with everything, measure the opportunity cost. I mean, I definitely wouldn't recommend any of the offsites we did this year for the swag, although, I love something like the What We Do in the Shadows hat. It wouldn't have been worth the line. It was more about, the experience and kind of how that accompanied. But again, many of them asking for something in return. I mean, with FX, you are having to register and basically give them your email. Amazon the same. Watchmen the same. Over at Pennyworth, to get the pin, we had to download the Epix app. And so more and more of that. Now, Epix and Stars, also part of the swag was giving you 6-month memberships to the service. So, I mean, it's all about kind of looping you into the streaming service. So it's interesting as movies take more of a back seat at Comic-Con, streaming takes more of a front seat, which is very clear. But it's interesting how it's impacting also the way the floor works, the way the offsites work, the merchandise that's able to be picked up, and just how all of that kind of plays out. We did do fun days. Never really talked too much about that because if you know fun days, it's awesome to get into. It's terribly difficult to get into. I think they said 30,000 people ended up on the wait list this year. Love going, love seeing what kind of surprises we'll get there. We got, I think, 8 pops this year. So here's what, 4 of them. We got like, 4 more off to the side. As I said, this isn't kind of everything, but it's a lot of fun, but I don't think there's a lot to talk about. Everybody tries to fight it out to get in that. Same thing with Conan. Very fortunate that we're able to go to Conan as media. They invite us to come. We come. We do not take that for granted at all, but getting the pop as part of that experience is a really cool piece of swag. Now, as I said, because we had the Hasbro ticket that we were able to put in for other things. And Funko, if you followed along with our daily vlogs, this was something we didn't have right at the very beginning. And then it popped up somewhere maybe a couple days after. But again, by being able to allocate some tokens, we were able to pick up some good ones there. We were able, some of the harder to get ones, we owed from old trades. I mean, one of the things over the years that we've done is really gotten into helping. We have, I don't know, 6 or 7 different kind of friends or groups of friends that we work with to help each other out. I mean, that was how this year was able to get the toucan, which meant a lot to me. I was able to help another friend out with the trade there. And so Funko, though, is really valuable for trade. I mean, because I shouldn't say almost everybody, but so many people are into Funko. So I find that it's a lot easier to get things like Hasbro or Tamashii or, Fig Pin now we'll get to in a second. These things, if you have some Funko to trade. Funko seems to go a long way. So we used to use Fun Days when we would get in, or Conan for some of those. And now this year it was a nice boost being able to enter that lottery and win those. Now, one of the things, and I hesitate to say this, but I do think there is an advantage to kind of going for more of a midday slot with Funko, with Hasbro, with whatever. You are rolling the dice on the fact of something selling out. But I think if your goal is to get in, I do think the basic psychology of your average attendee, and now we have to remember, most of the attendees are not going to watch videos like this. And so most attendees are going to do what makes sense to their basic schedule. And they're going to say, well, let's get rid of it in the morning, or let's do it at the end of the day. They're not going to say, like, let's put this in the middle of the day when I don't even know my panel schedule or anything else. So I think for us here on out, at least until we find some other reason to change, we're really going to aim for middle of the day when it comes to lottery allocation of tokens, because I just think it's a little bit easier of a road to go. I just find the more attendees I talk to, and even a lot of the veteran ones, they're like, well, I want to go first because I'm just all in. Either I'm going to get all the Funko or I'm going to get none of the Funko. And that's fine if that's your strategy, but I would rather get a little bit of Funko or a little bit of Hasbro and maybe be able to trade my way for other things. So at least that's where I'm leaning as I'm looking at 2020 right now. I mean, that's going to be one of my first big notes for 2020. Outside of maintaining memberships for things, even if they're borderline, because, for example, Pulse has been okay, not really great, but the fact that it probably can get me a ticket next year into Hasbro again on preview night or somewhere on Thursday, I'm going to go for it because it can just change the way the entire week works for me. But beyond that, the idea now that we can kind of have a little bit better of a chance, even if it's just a few percentage points better, to maybe aim for a middle of the day, then I'll go for that. Although that does maybe cost, and I think that's probably how we ended up getting our slot, is I'm guessing somebody just kind of threw the fish back in the water and said, well, I'm going to do Game of Thrones on Friday. I'm not going to mess around with Funko, throw it back, and then it ultimately showed up in our portal there. A nice thing, regardless of lottery, swag, any of those things, Comic-Con maintains its position as like the best place in the world to go to just see artists and writers and, Stan Sakai, Jeff Lemire, Tom Taylor. I mean, these are fantastic creators. Not that they don't go to any other cons, they do. But, particularly like Tom Taylor, this is the first time we've been able to fit in to a place with our schedule that we were able to see him coming over from Australia. It was fantastic to talk to him. He drew a little sketch for us. I mean, he's a writer, but he still gave us a sketch, which was fun. Lemire, it's nice because none of those things can go away. You still have so much comic programming. You still have so many options in terms of the artists and the writers, and that's not going to ever be impacted by the lotteries, and that's a really nice feeling. Also, we found it was kind of interesting. These are just a couple of the trades we picked up. They're used, so you can see they're a little bent up, but these were like, I think, $5 each. We found a lot more dollar bin comics, $5 bin comics, and $5 to $10 trades than ever before. And I don't really know why that is, because it's still very expensive to be an exhibitor at Comic-Con. It may have just been kind of a random allotment of some of the exhibitors we saw this year having a little bit of extra stuff that they had room for at their tables or whatever. But it was nice to see, because it's not very often that you can find cheap comic options at the show, and that was kind of a fun thing and a little bit of a different thing. So I know it's something I normally feel like I'm not going to be buying any trades at Comic-Con unless they're directly from publishers and signing opportunities like what we did with Black Hammer. But maybe that will change. We'll see. Keep an eye on it. Now, Hallmark, they've gone to that new ticketing system the last couple of years. There was lots of soft spots for that. So looking at 2020, I would not sweat Hallmark at all, because literally, I want to say even noon on Sunday this year, they still had the hottest ornaments there. They had both of these guys. They had the Spider-Man one as well. They didn't sell out till later in the day. There was multiple opportunities every day of the con to pick these up. So don't sweat that one much. And, you know, I got to say, really, with all of the other booths except Funko and Lego, opportunities seem to pop up on numerous occasions. We got many texts about Hasbro popping open. We got many texts about Tamashii Nation opening up, or we saw it ourselves. You know, Funko didn't seem to open up much at all. The SDCC X1 did a little bit more, but mostly Funko was still, and Lego. There was opportunities there for sure. I'm not saying, I mean, you could definitely have come to Comic-Con with no lottery wins and been able to get stuff from all of the booths, no doubt. But I think it was a little bit easier go at some of the other booths, particularly Hasbro or even Tamashii Nation, which is kind of a new thing for us to be picking up, but we've liked them quite a bit. Really high quality figures there. Probably an area of collecting. If you're not in, don't go down that road, because it's an expensive one. And same thing here with Figpin. I'm really liking these. I feel like they, in their first year at Comic-Con, they got a lot of attention. The booth was constantly under, you know, scrutiny of how they were running the lines and their ticket systems and people running over there to get them. They had a number of different exclusives that were limited to like $750 or $1,000. They're very cool. They have that vibe to me of what Funko had. Not that they're going to become, I mean, Funko's Funko. I don't think you could ever recreate the worldwide success that they've had, but there is kind of a feeling of the zeitgeist there, where I do think Figpin is amping up, and I do think people are getting more and more interested, particularly when it comes to the anime side. You know, we noticed it being very popular at Anime Expo, and it felt like throughout this weekend, people were not talking as much about the Batman and the Joker as they were about like Broly or, you know, Vegeta or whatever. So something to keep an eye out there. The pop-up shop Super 7, nice that they're out there. You've got that kind of year-round Comic-Con experience there. We love the reaction stuff they do, particularly when it's things like the Peanuts or in the Monsters universe and all of that. So all in all, we had a really good year, a lot of fun. It's just, you know, it keeps coming back to that adaptability. If you are coming to the con, if you are looking at this in 2020 and making your plans, and maybe you haven't been in a few years and you love hunting swag, be prepared, because I think it is kind of frustrating for those of us that have done this for a long time when you're on the floor from that 9 a.m. to 9:40 a.m. and you used to pick up like 3 or 4 different shirts and 5 different bags and all these posters and poster tubes, and now you're kind of running around hoping you can grab, you know, a little pin, or, you know, you're grabbing some lanyards that you've been getting for 10 years and you don't really need any more of. It's just, it's a different mode. So you do have to look in other ways, whether it's joining these premium memberships, whether it's trading, whether it's, you know, working, I guess, I mean, it comes back to trading, but working with friends, using social media to form, you know, using those Facebook groups, things like that. It really comes about all of that. But I do find that we're getting, you know, all the same types of stuff that we wanted. It's just different ways, you know, is maybe I guess the exception is we're not getting the bags that we want, because they just literally this year were not made. The Walking Dead bags that have been so fun and so useful in the past are just gone. But besides that, a lot of the same stuff is coming out. It's just you're having to give them something to get it. You're having to trade and put in maybe more time in some cases in unorthodox ways of setting up trades to get the items and stuff like that. So those are kind of my initial thoughts for this year. You know, we'll see what else develops as the weeks, months go by, and I'll be watching this in, you know, as I said, April or May of 2020 and trying to plan things out again. But I do think I highly encourage you, if you're watching this for 2020 information, to really be thinking about who are your go-to people, who who are you able to text to talk to? I know for myself, and I've shared this before on our podcast, probably the most, but just there was a long time doing Comic-Con where I was very much an isolationist. I didn't really understand how, having any friends there would even be of any use when it came to hunting down swag or exclusives. And now it's just the total opposite. I mean, the last 4 or 5 years, it feels like I'm spending as much time texting people as trying to find things. And it's like, oh, I found this, and hey, check this booth out, they have this. And it's kind of my constant thing on the floor is I'm finding things and texting my friends first, and then as soon as I get done texting them, then I'm putting it on Twitter once I know that they've gotten to the spot to get it, to share it with our followers and things like that. So think about kind of who your team is once you've got tickets. Obviously, that's a whole nother thing. If you're watching this in 2019, just getting badges and returning is the first big obstacle there. But once you have that, looking at the people that you can work with, making those friends and being able to kind of network with each other, might want to give some of these premium services. If you were kind of on the fence about something like a DC Universe or a Hasbro Pulse, might want to give it a roll of the dice to see what you think of it and see if it can help things. With Hasbro, we've got now to see what they can do at D23 Expo. We'll see what they do with Comic-Con. We'll see what they do with Star Wars Celebration Anaheim. I mean, there might be a few different ways there to win outside of just, oh, well, they've got free shipping or things like that on their online services. So with that being said, we are going to wrap up here for 2019. Huge thanks to everybody that followed along, supported our videos, shared things, added comments. Any and all is very much appreciated. We are very tired, ready to put this stuff away and get to bed and move on and get ready for San Diego Comic-Con 2020. So we'll wrap up here. Until next time, we'll see you in line somewhere.